Think Florida's real estate is done growing? Think again. While the headlines scream crash and collapse, a different story is quietly unfolding across the Sunshine State. Behind the noise, some Florida cities are setting up for explosive price growth by 2027, and most people are completely missing it. Population is surging, jobs are multiplying, mortgage rates are finally easing, and demand is about to flood the market. Is your city on the list? Could that modest home you've been eyeing become your best financial decision in a decade? In this video, we're looking at the Florida cities where the housing market is quietly catching fire. This isn't just a bounce. It's a full-on launch pad that could flip everything you thought you knew about Florida real estate. If you're watching this to get ahead of the curve, you're in the right place. Number 10. Fort Lauderdale, Florida. Fort Lauderdale, the sun-soaked jewel of South Florida, is quietly staging one of the state's most compelling real estate comebacks. And in 2026, the signs are impossible to ignore. Once written off as overpriced and oversaturated, this city is now drawing serious attention from investors who know what a bottoming market looks like. Inventory that surged through 2024 is now beginning to pull back, and correctly priced homes in prime neighborhoods, they're seeing multiple offers. Again, here's what makes Fort Lauderdale different from the rest of South Florida right now. It's not Miami. The entry price is lower. The median single-family home sits near $570,000. The demand drivers are real and durable. No state income tax, year-round tourism, a booming port. Port Everglades is one of the busiest in the country, and corporate relocations from New York and Chicago are accelerating. Fort Lauderdale real estate experts on the ground report that as of second quarter 2026, inventory in Broward County for single-family homes is tightening at a 5-month supply below the 6-month balanced market threshold. That's a seller's market forming quietly beneath the surface. Add in the Fed's expected additional rate cuts in late 2026, and you've got a city that could see 8 to 12% appreciation in the right markets by end of 2027. Fort Lauderdale still looks like a postcard, but now under the surface, it's building momentum. The window to buy before the next wave, it's closing faster than most people realize. 9. Cape Coral, Florida. Cape Coral, often called the Venice of America for its 400 miles of canals, is quietly becoming one of Florida's most compelling buying opportunities of 2026. Yes, the market corrected. Prices are down 5 to 7% from their peak. Homes are sitting longer. Inventory swelled. But here's what the doom and gloom crowd isn't telling you. This is exactly what a buying window looks like. Median prices sit around $345,000 for a waterfront-adjacent city. Compare that to Miami at $535,000 or Naples at $600,000. Cape Coral offers coastal lifestyle at inland prices. And that gap doesn't stay wide for long. The fundamentals haven't broken. The canals are still there. The climate is still there. And the people? They're still coming. Cape Coral's population crossed 230,000 and keeps growing. It remains one of the fastest-growing cities in the entire United States. New infrastructure is catching up. City water and sewer expansion, once a headache for buyers, is now nearly complete in most zones, removing that $30,000 assessment fear that scared away buyers in prior years. Short-term rental demand for Cape Coral's canal homes is recovering as travel spending rebounds. And with rates expected to ease toward 5.9% by late 2026, the affordability math starts working again in a big way. Those who buy in Cape Coral today at correction prices could be looking at 15 to 20% gains by 2027, not because the market is booming now, but because the floor has been set and the direction is up. 8. Ocala, Florida. Florida's horse capital is quietly setting up for one of the most interesting real estate rebounds in the state. A year ago, headlines were grim. Inventory had tripled, prices pulled back, ghost town comparisons were everywhere. But zoom out and a different picture emerges. Ocala is still one of the most affordable cities in Florida. Median homes near $270,000 in a state where the average is $420,000. That affordability isn't a weakness, it's a magnet. And the magnet is working. Marion County added over 11,000 new residents in 2024 alone. The I-75 corridor linking Ocala to both Tampa and Jacksonville makes it a natural distribution and logistics hub. Amazon, FedEx, and a wave of warehousing companies have planted roots here, bringing jobs, and jobs bring buyers. The retirement angle is equally powerful. With the villages continuing to overflow nearby, retirees on fixed incomes are pivoting to Ocala, where their dollar stretches dramatically further. That demographic wave doesn't stop. Yes, overbuilding created a short-term overhang, but absorption is happening. Active listings have started to decline as of 2026. The market is finding its floor. For investors, Ocala offers some of the strongest rent-to-price ratios in the entire state. Properties yielding 7 to 9% cap rates that simply don't exist in Tampa or Orlando anymore. Ocala still has the horse trails, the rolling hills, the charm, and in 2026, it's adding something new value. 7. Tampa, Florida. Tampa, Florida's real estate crown jewel isn't fading, it's reloading. Yes, prices pulled back slightly. Inventory built up, monthly payments jumped, the market needed to breathe. But Tampa is not a city that stays down. The corporate relocation story is still very much intact. Major companies from financial services to tech continue choosing Tampa Bay as their southeastern headquarters. That's not a trend, that's a structural shift in where American business operates. Major employers planting permanent flags and employees need housing. Population growth in Hillsborough County continues at over 1.5% annually. Tampa International Airport just completed a $3.2 billion expansion, a signal that the region's future is being bet on at the highest levels. The investor class hasn't left Tampa, it's evolved. A younger demographic is now snapping up properties for Airbnb and VRBO, recognizing Tampa Bay's year-round appeal as a tourism destination. International buyers from Latin America and Europe are viewing Tampa as a dollar-dominated safe haven for real estate. The market correction that spooked casual buyers, it created an entry point that seasoned investors are quietly using. Homes that were $450,000 in 2022 dipped to $395,000 and are now stabilizing, are poised for the next move upward as rates ease and demand returns. By 2027, Tampa's core neighborhoods, South Tampa, Hyde Park, could be 10 to 15% higher than today's prices. The sunny skies are still there, and now finally, so is the opportunity. Jacksonville, Florida. Jacksonville, Florida's largest city by area, is also becoming one of its largest opportunities in 2026. The National Association of Realtors just named Jacksonville a 2026 housing hotspot. That's not a coincidence. It's recognition of something that data-driven buyers have noticed. Jacksonville has the fundamentals that create lasting appreciation. The median home price sits at $322,000, significantly below the Florida statewide average of $420,000 and far below Tampa, Orlando, or South Florida. That gap is the opportunity. Population growth at 1.8% annually outpaces both the state average of 1.1% and the national average of 0.5%. Jacksonville is adding residents faster than almost any large Florida city. The economic engine is diversifying. Healthcare, logistics, military, and financial services are all expanding simultaneously, a rare combination that insulates the market against single-sector slowdowns. J-Port's deepening project is bringing larger vessels and more commerce. The $2.22 billion JA Utility Infrastructure Program is a decade-long commitment to the city's growth. These aren't small bets. These are signals that Jacksonville's trajectory is locked in. Neighborhoods like Riverside, Endale, and Jacksonville Beach are drawing serious attention from buyers relocating from higher-cost metros. St. Johns County next door has a median of $577,000. Meaning Jacksonville proper still offers significant room to run. The window is open. Not for long, but right now, Jacksonville is the most undervalued large city in Florida. The top 5 cities are just ahead. 5. Sarasota, Florida. Celebrated for white sand beaches, cultural sophistication, and a high-end lifestyle, is setting up for a luxury market rebound that patient investors have been waiting for. The correction happened. Prices came down from peak euphoria. Inventory built up. Waterfront properties that were $1.2 million are now offered at $975,000. And that is the opportunity. Here's what hasn't changed. Sarasota is still Sarasota. Siesta Key still holds the title of America's best beach. The art scene is still world-class. The retiree demographic, wealthy, mobile, and growing, hasn't disappeared. It has paused. That pause is ending. As stock markets stabilize and portfolio values recover, the affluent buyers who stepped back in 2024 are returning. Redfin data shows Sarasota is now in the top 5 most searched relocation destinations nationally among homebuyers looking to move, sitting alongside Phoenix and Nashville. That search activity converts to sales. And when it does, inventory tightens fast in a luxury market. The buyers who move now at today's corrected prices will be ahead of the wave that's coming. Waterfront single-family homes in Sarasota with a 10 to 15% discount from 2022 highs represent a generational entry point into one of America's premier coastal markets. By 2027, as rates ease and the luxury buyer returns in force, Sarasota's best properties could recover fully and push beyond prior peaks. 4. Port St. Lucie, Florida. Port St. Lucie, once Florida's best-kept secret for affordability, is now entering its next chapter, and it's a more mature, sustainable one. Yes, the market ran hot. Prices hit $410,000 on median incomes of $62,000. That disconnect caused a correction, a necessary one. But what's replacing that frenzy is something more durable. Port St. Lucie is the southernmost affordable city on Florida's Atlantic coast. South of here, Palm Beach, Boca Raton, Fort Lauderdale, all well above $500,000. North of here, Brevard County, the emerging Space Coast. Port St. Lucie sits at the geographic sweet spot between two appreciating corridors. The city is investing heavily in infrastructure. The master plant community within Port St. Lucie continues attracting national retailers, medical facilities, and corporate campuses that bring permanent employment. Cleveland Clinic has a major presence here. The New York Mets spring training facility draws tens of thousands of visitors annually and keeps Port St. Lucie on the national radar. As affordability improves with rate reductions, first-time buyers and relocating families from South Florida will rediscover Port St. Lucie. The math will work again, and when it does, inventory will tighten fast. Buyers who move in 2026 during this rebalancing period position themselves ahead of the next appreciation cycle. Number 3, Fort Myers, Florida. The Gulf Coast city that saw one of Florida's sharpest pandemic-era run-ups is now offering one of its most compelling entry points in years. Prices are down from the 2022 peak. Inventory has built up. Sellers are negotiating, and that combination in a city with Fort Myers' underlying appeal is something sophisticated investors recognize. Fort Myers Beach is rebuilding after Hurricane Ian, and rebuilding means newer, more resilient, more insurable homes. The rebuild cycle itself is an economic engine bringing construction jobs, contractors, and capital into the region. Lee Health, the county's largest employer with over 12,000 workers, is expanding. Florida GF Coast University continues to grow, bringing a young professional population that creates rental demand and eventually buyer demand. Bonita Springs, just south of Fort Myers, saw a 71% jump in pending sales year over year, a leading indicator that the broader Southwest Florida market is finding its floor. Median prices near $345,000 for a Gulf Coast city with waterfront access, world-class fishing, and no state income tax. That's a pricing anomaly that won't last once rates move lower. By 2027, Fort Myers could realistically see 12 to 18% appreciation, especially in areas with new construction and hurricane-resistant building standards. Number 2, St. Petersburg, Florida, is known for its waterfront parks, booming art scene, and downtown energy, is quietly becoming one of the most exciting real estate opportunities on Florida's entire Gulf Coast. Prices came down from $450,000 peaks to the high $300,000. Inventory built, days on market stretched, investors got cautious. All of that is true, and all of that created the setup. Here's what separates St. Pete from other markets. The city itself keeps getting better. The Pier District is world-class. The Dali Museum draws global visitors. The food and culture scene is consistently ranked among the best in the American South. Young professionals, the demographic that drives long-term housing demand, are choosing St. Pete over Tampa proper for lifestyle reasons. The downtown, walkable, vibrant, increasingly dense, is attracting significant condo and mixed-use development that signals long-term confidence from institutional capital. Developers don't build where they don't see growth. As mortgage rates ease toward 5.9 to 6.1% in late 2026, St. Pete's affordability math flips. A city that was out of reach at 7% rates becomes very accessible at 6%. And that shift unlocks a wave of pent-up demand from buyers who've been sitting on the sidelines for 2 years. St. Pete is still stylish, still sunny, still growing, and right now it's also on sale. The window doesn't stay open forever. Number 1, Lakeland, Florida, nestled between Tampa and Orlando, two of America's fastest-growing metro areas, is our top pick for the single biggest price growth opportunity in Florida by 2027. And here's why. Lakeland is the last truly affordable city in the corridor between two economic giants. The median home price sits near $300,000, while Tampa to the west averages $380,000 and Orlando to the east averages $385,000. That $80,000 discount for the same climate, the same commute range, the same Florida lifestyle. It cannot persist. As remote work continues to normalize, buyers can live in Lakeland and access jobs in either metro. That's a structural demand driver that didn't exist before 2020 and will not go away. The logistics industry, Lakeland's economic backbone, isn't shrinking, it's evolving. The city sits at the intersection of I-4 and US 98, making it one of the most strategically positioned distribution hubs in the Southeast. Publix, Amazon, Saddle Creek Logistics, GEO, major employers with permanent growing footprints. Polk County, where Lakeland sits, was one of the fastest-growing counties in America in 2024, adding over 20,000 new residents. Those people need homes. And at $300,000 median with inventory still elevated, they're finding them, which means inventory is quietly beginning to absorb. As rates drop and affordability improves through 2026, the investors who went quiet are returning. New listings are stabilizing. Price reductions are slowing. The floor is forming. Buyers who act in 2026 before the next appreciation cycle begins could see 20 to 25% gains by 2027. Not because Lakeland is booming today, because it's the last affordable piece of the Tampa-Orlando corridor, and the math of migration doesn't lie. Lakeland had its pause, but in 2026 and beyond, it stands as the poster child for Florida's next chapter, a city where value and growth intersect at exactly the right moment. From luxury waterfront condos in Sarasota to affordable corridor homes in Lakeland, Florida's housing market is shifting and fast. This isn't just a recovery trend, it's a reset, a relaunch, a rare window. For years, the Sunshine State was the epicenter of real estate hysteria. Prices moving too fast, too high, too speculative. But in 2026, the dust is settling, and what's underneath is something more valuable. A market where prices reflect reality, where buyers have leverage, and where the underlying drivers, population, jobs, climate, lifestyle, haven't weakened for a single day. Whether you're buying, selling, investing, or just watching from the sidelines, one thing is clear. The best time to position yourself in any market is just before everyone else sees it, and that moment in Florida is right now. If a city on this list caught your eye, you're not overthinking it. Trust the data. At JMG, we bring real data, real stories, and we don't sugarcoat the trends. We'll see you in the next video.